Hey everybody, here's a match in the KV85, solo pubbing again. Now I'd been having connection issues before this match, and I decided after a bit of a break I'd come back and see if I could get a couple matches in, and to test out whether my connection was going to be okay or not, I decided to run a match in a lower tier tank where the stakes are not quite as high, or so I thought. Now, KV85 is an alright tank. It's the replacement for the old KV1S, which was obviously a bit... I don't want to say good, because I thought the old KV1S was actually kind of shitty. It had really good mobility, its armor was passable, but it was made of fuel tanks, and its gun just had the most atrocious handling. It was pretty much RNG based. It had tremendous pen and alpha for its tier, but it very rarely hit what it was aimed at. So, the KV85 can mount the same 122mm gun, but it's absolutely horrible. It's basically useless. It's like mounting it on the T44. Or you can mount this 100mm gun, which is actually quite fantastic. Obviously, preferring accuracy over just raw hitting power, I go for the 100mm gun on this tank. I decided I'd come south, try and shore up the pass down there. I never actually made it to the pass before the enemy started engaging me. And so I ended up fighting on this corner instead, while the Sherman behind me went to the pass. Enemy Sherman 3 carelessly battleships out, and gets cleaned up by the still quite good alpha of this gun, which is enough to two-shot a lot of tier 5s. From this position, I'm actually able to help out middle as well. As you can tell, I was auto-aiming that. I had to use a lot of auto-aim this match because my ping was just being a problem. It was bouncing around a lot, between about 220 and 350. And I was getting packet loss to boot, so I was just auto-aiming to try and get at least some hits. As you may have noticed there, our own Lee just shot me in the back of the turret. Great work on his part. And here the enemy Stuart tries to get the drop on me, but it's not going to happen. He gets a bit too close, and gets cleaned up by one of my teammates. So I've already done 1600 damage. Now in a tier 6 heavy, that's not too bad. I've now done more than double my hit points. I'm not done yet though. With most of the enemy tanks in this part of the map cleaned up, I'm going to finish off the Sherman. Now, at this point I could have run through towards the enemy cap, but looking at the map, that wouldn't have been too good a plan. A lot of our tanks are very low on health, would be killed by one or two shots, and the enemy are about to pincer them. They also will not have a very hard time getting to our cap, so I decided to come back and let the Panzer IV go for the enemy cap. Wolverine comes in first. That shot probably shouldn't have hit him. That wasn't very well aimed at all. It looked like it was going to hit the wreck. Thankfully for me, it did hit, as did my second. Cleaned him up before he could get any more shots into me. Now the M36 could be a huge threat, but thankfully he sat still behind cover from me without thinking about the fact that we still had a Hummel in the game, or a Hummer, and he exploded. Our ELC killed himself. Great job. The Panzer IV is on the enemy cap, but I decide to stay nearer to my own base. We're about to have a Leopard and a Wolverine come bucketing down into it. At this point it's looking alright. They're probably going to go back for the Panzer IV. I know I would have. But that buys me some time to head back here and decide on a course of action. At 2,345 damage, that would be a good match for me in a tier 7. I'm in a tier 6. In fact, I'd even be happy with that in a tier 8 heavy. although obviously not quite so much. Sure enough, the leopard goes back, gets the resets in, and then proceeds to clown the Panzer IV. The Wolverine goes back to support it, picking up the kill. And so now I have to decide on a course of action. I could keep pressing north, but the leopard has much better camera than I do, and can outspot me. The Wolverine can finish me in 2 or 3 shots. I decide to play defensively for now. Arty wanted to go in and rush the enemy base. There's no point throwing away an arty for that. If they focused him, then it would just be the 2 of them on me, because I wouldn't be able to kill them quickly enough to prevent that. Well, if I hit the leopard, maybe. And if they focus me, then what's he going to do? Shotgun a light tank and a TD? I don't think so. So I decide I'll just sit here and wait for them to come to me, because I was pretty sure at this point they would come to me. There's 2 of them, there's only 1 of me, and surely sooner or later they're going to want to kill the arty. So I'm just going to hit the time acceleration for a bit here, because nothing much happens for a little while. At this point I was just expecting them to cut down through middle, or come in behind. I was giving them a while. At this stage I was just sitting to see if they would come through the middle. It appeared they weren't going to, and so I turn around and make tracks for the north. Now, it was a possibility they were going to defend as well and just turtle up and force me to come out, which is something I was hoping they wouldn't do, because it would put me at a huge disadvantage, even with an arty player still up to support me. By now, I know they are certainly playing more reservedly. If they just made best speed for our base, they would have been there long ago. The leopard certainly is fast enough to get there in about 30 seconds, if that. The Wolverine would not be far behind. Now, at this stage, I'd kind of blanked on the fact that the leopard now gets a 30mm autocannon that can pen me and actually do a significant amount of damage, and I thought that the only real threat to me was the Wolverine. I was very, very, very wrong. As I come through the north here, they haven't actually pushed around this corner, which was worrying. It made me think they were actually turtled up defending. And the north is not a good place to push against somebody who's turtled in a bush, because you won't see them until it's too late. The leopard appears right in front of me. Unfortunately, auto-aim. Just not sufficient to deal with a leopard. It's too fast. It can easily out-traverse my turret. You can see me trying to traverse my hull here to get the gun onto the leopard, but because I was auto-aiming, I was actually aiming behind him. He moves way too fast. Now, should I have manually aimed those shots? Yes. Was that the first thing in my mind as I played this? No. I decided to there though, and thankfully the shot connected. But I'm now very vulnerable with a dead driver and sitting trapped in the middle of the field. Luckily, the Wolverine was not actually supporting the leopard. He was kind of milling around pointlessly while the leopard did all the work. So he just passed up a perfect chance to kill me and win himself the game. I'm about to come around this rock when I proxy spot him. And that's bad news for him, because even with a dead driver, I'm mobile enough to keep him from pushing around the rock. Certainly now I've knocked all his hit points off, he's not going to try that again in a hurry. Arty tries to hit him, narrowly misses, hit the rocks instead. Now the Wolverine wants to come out, he knows he can finish me in a shot if he high rolls. But he doesn't want to get slapped, so he's not going to come around that corner. What that does is give our arty time to reload and try for another shot, and our arty was on a mission here where he wanted to kill the Wolverine, so I told him, if you can hit it, it's yours, and he hit it. He got his damage for his mission, and I got a 2700 damage, nearly, carry, when I wasn't expecting one. So I was pretty happy with that. It wasn't something I thought was going to happen, in what was meant to be just a quick match to test out my connection. Turns out my connection wasn't so great, as you probably noticed there. I was lagging a bit, but I was pretty content with pulling that match out, so I just took a break for several hours until my net was alright again. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't play this tank so much, but it's not bad. I think it's certainly better than the KV-1S used to be. It's probably a little more imbalanced than that thing even was. The only real disadvantage it has is the 3 degrees of gun depression, and I suppose the front armor profile, because the beak is now not auto bounce angle, it's much less steep. But other than that, it's basically the same old, just with a better gun. Similar mobility, similar armor scheme, aside from the beak, as I mentioned, and a decent gun in the form of the 100mm. Don't use the 122 on this, it's just not worth it. Not only was it a bad choice to start with because of its shitty gun handling and shitty rate of fire, it's now an abysmally bad choice because it got nerfed into the ground. So use the 100, it's a very, very, very good gun. And it also gives you a much better chance of coming out favourably in engagements against higher tier tanks, simply because unlike the 122, you can actually fire quickly enough to stop things from pushing on you, and you actually do have some degree of accuracy. On that note, I'd like to wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.